What happens when a country forces out some of its most hardworking, skilled, and dedicated workers? Regret. Massive regret. From a collapsing healthcare system to an economy in freefall. These nations thought they could survive without Filipinos, but they were dead wrong. After sending Filipinos home, they faced crippling worker shortages, industries on the brink of collapse, and desperate attempts to reverse their mistake. The damage was done, and the consequences were far worse than they ever imagined. These are the 12 nations that regret kicking out Filipinos, and the shocking fallout will leave you stunned. Number 12. Saudi Arabia. For years, Filipinos were the heart and soul of Saudi Arabia's healthcare system. Nurses, caregivers, and medical workers from the Philippines filled hospitals and clinics, keeping the system running smoothly. But in 2011, everything changed. The Saudi government introduced tougher rules on foreign workers, forcing thousands of Filipinos to leave. At first, officials were confident that local Saudi workers could replace them, but that plan failed horribly. Hospitals struggled, patient care deteriorated, and the country faced a severe shortage of skilled medical workers. People were furious, and soon the government realized its huge mistake. With no other option, Saudi Arabia was forced to reverse its decision and beg Filipinos to return. Today, the country is desperately recruiting Filipino healthcare workers again, proving that they simply cannot survive without them. Number 11. Kuwait. Kuwait depended heavily on Filipino domestic workers, nurses, and engineers. But in 2018, a huge dispute between the Philippines and Kuwait changed everything. Due to shocking cases of abuse and mistreatment, the Philippine government completely stopped sending workers to Kuwait. At first, Kuwait acted like it wasn't a big deal, claiming they could find workers from other countries. But reality hit hard. A nationwide labor crisis began. Families struggled to find housekeepers, hospitals lacked nurses, and businesses suffered without skilled Filipino professionals. The country was in trouble. In the end, Kuwait had no choice but to negotiate with the Philippines. By 2020, a new labor agreement was reached, and Filipinos were welcomed back. The government learned the hard way they simply could not function without them. Number 10. Qatar. Qatar's rich economy thrived on oil, tourism, and world-class hospitality. And who made it all possible? Filipino workers. They were everywhere. Hotels, restaurants, and airlines relied heavily on their skills and dedication. But in 2017, Qatar faced a major diplomatic crisis with other Gulf nations, leading to economic trouble and massive job losses. Thousands of foreign workers, including countless Filipinos, were forced to leave. At first, Qatar thought it wouldn't be a problem. They believed they could easily replace them. Big mistake! Hotels, airlines, and service industries began to struggle. The quality of hospitality dropped fast, and tourists noticed the difference. Businesses took a hit, and Qatar soon realized they had made a terrible mistake. By 2019, the country rushed to fix things and welcomed Filipinos back with open arms. Today, Filipinos once again dominate Qatar's hospitality and aviation industries, proving that their skills, hard work, and dedication are simply irreplaceable. Number 9. United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates is one of the richest and most advanced countries in the Middle East. But do you know who helped build its success? Filipino workers. They played huge roles in construction, healthcare, hospitality, and retail. But in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the UAE suspended thousands of work permits. Thousands of Filipinos lost their jobs and had no choice but to return home. The government thought it was a necessary decision, but what happened next shocked the entire nation. Hospitals struggled with nurse shortages, major construction projects were delayed, and tourism suffered badly because there weren't enough skilled hospitality workers. Businesses felt the pain, and by 2022, the UAE was desperately trying to bring Filipinos back, offering higher salaries and better benefits just to convince them to return. Today, Filipinos are back, once again leading in key industries. This proves one thing: the UAE simply cannot function without them. Number 8. Malaysia. For years, Filipino workers were the heart of Malaysia's service industry. They worked in hotels, restaurants, and retail, bringing hard work, top-notch customer service, and professionalism to every job. But in 2016, Malaysia decided to tighten its foreign labor laws, forcing thousands of Filipinos to leave. At first, the government believed locals could replace them, but the reality was a total disaster. Hotels struggled to maintain their high standards, restaurants couldn't keep up with demand, and retail stores suffered from poor customer service. Tourists and customers noticed the difference, and businesses felt the impact. It didn't take long for Malaysia to realize its huge mistake. Within a few years, the country was begging Filipinos to come back. Today, they are once again a major force in Malaysia's workforce, proving one thing: Filipino skills and dedication are simply irreplaceable. Number 7, Japan. Japan has one of the oldest populations in the world, and for years, Filipino caregivers were the ones making sure elderly citizens got the care they needed. But in 2010, Japan made a huge mistake. It introduced stricter work and language rules, making it almost impossible for Filipinos to work as caregivers. At first, the government thought this was the right decision, but soon the reality hit hard. Hospitals and nursing homes struggled, and thousands of elderly people were left with little to no proper care. Families were desperate, and the country faced a serious caregiver crisis. By 2018, Japan had no choice but to reverse its decision. The rules were changed to welcome Filipinos back, and today they remain one of the largest groups in Japan's elderly care sector. This proves one thing: Japan simply cannot take care of its aging population without them. Number 6, Singapore. For years, Filipino workers have been the heart and soul of Singapore's healthcare and domestic sectors. Thousands of Filipino nurses and caregivers kept hospitals running smoothly, while Filipino domestic helpers took care of children, elderly citizens, and homes. But in 2020, everything changed. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, Singapore shut its borders, stopping many Filipino workers from coming back. Some had to return home, while others lost their jobs because they couldn't renew their contracts. At first, the government thought it could handle the situation, but the reality was shocking. Families struggled to find trustworthy and skilled domestic helpers. Hospitals and nursing homes were short-staffed, putting patients' lives at risk. Singapore tried to replace Filipinos with workers from other countries, but it didn't take long to realize nobody could match the skill, dedication, and care of Filipinos. By late 2021, Singapore rushed to fix its mistake. The government reversed its strict rules and began actively recruiting Filipinos again, this time offering better salaries and working conditions. Today, Filipinos are once again the backbone of Singapore's healthcare and domestic workforce, proving one thing: Singapore simply cannot function without them. Number 5, Hong Kong. For many years, Filipino domestic workers have been the most trusted and hardworking in Hong Kong. They took care of homes, children, and elderly citizens with patience, dedication, and professionalism. Families relied on them because they were honest, skilled, and experienced, making them the most in-demand domestic helpers in the city. But in 2017, the Hong Kong government made a huge mistake. They introduced new hiring policies to reduce reliance on Filipino workers and promote local and foreign alternatives. They believed this would save money and lessen political ties with the Philippines. However, this plan backfired badly. Families immediately noticed the difference. Many of the new hires from other countries lacked proper training, work ethic, and childcare experience. Complaints piled up. Employers reported issues like dishonesty, poor hygiene, and unprofessional behavior. Parents felt uneasy leaving their children with inexperienced workers, and households struggled without the quality service they once had. By 2019, Hong Kong quietly reversed its decision. The government reopened its doors to Filipino domestic workers, and demand skyrocketed. Today, families are so desperate to hire Filipinos that many are willing to pay extra just to secure one. The message is loud and clear: Filipino domestic workers are simply irreplaceable. Number 4, South Korea. South Korea is a global powerhouse in manufacturing, technology, and industry. For years, Filipino workers played a huge role in keeping factories running smoothly. They were known for their hard work, skill, and dedication, making them essential to the country's booming economy. But in the early 2010s, South Korea made a big mistake. The government tightened visa rules, making it harder for Filipinos to work in the country. They thought local workers or cheaper labor from other nations could replace them. They were wrong. Factories struggled. Businesses couldn't find enough skilled workers, leading to massive labor shortages. Production slowed down, companies lost money, and some factories were forced to raise wages just to attract local workers. But even with higher pay, many South Koreans refused to take on the tough industrial jobs. By 2016, South Korea realized its mistake and eased the restrictions. They actively recruited Filipinos again, this time offering better wages and benefits. Today, Filipinos remain a crucial part of South Korea's industrial workforce, proving once again that their skills, work ethic, and dedication are simply irreplaceable. Number 3, Italy. Italy has one of the fastest aging populations in all of Europe. For years, Filipino caregivers played a huge role in taking care of elderly Italians, providing love, patience, and expert care. Families trusted them more than anyone else, making them the top choice for live-in caregivers. But in 2011, Italy made a huge mistake. The government tightened immigration rules, making it harder for Filipinos to get work permits and residency. Many Filipino caregivers were forced to leave, and families were left struggling to find proper help. What happened next? Complete disaster. Italian families couldn't find replacements who had the same dedication and skill. Nursing homes became overcrowded, and many elderly people were left without proper care. The situation spiraled out of control, and by 2014, Italy had no choice but to soften its immigration policies. Today, Filipinos once again dominate the caregiving industry in Italy, proving that the country simply cannot function without them. Number 2, Canada. Canada is known as one of the most immigrant-friendly countries in the world, but even they once made a terrible mistake. In the early 2000s, the Canadian government tightened immigration rules, making it hard for Filipino nurses to move to the country. They believed local nurses could handle the demand. But guess what? They were completely wrong. Within just a few years, Canada faced a massive nursing shortage. Hospitals were desperate for skilled healthcare workers, nursing homes were overwhelmed, and there simply weren't enough local nurses to fill the gap. The situation became a national crisis. By 2015, Canada had no choice but to reverse its decision. The government rushed to bring Filipino nurses back, offering better salaries, fast-tracked immigration, and huge benefits. Today, Filipino nurses are a huge part of Canada's healthcare system, proving once again that the country simply cannot function without them. Number 1, United States. For decades, Filipino nurses have been the backbone of the U.S. healthcare system. They have worked in hospitals, nursing homes, and clinics, providing expert care to millions of patients. But in the early 2010s, the U.S. made a huge mistake. They limited work visas for Filipino nurses, thinking that American nurses could replace them. Bad idea. The result? A total disaster. Hospitals suddenly didn't have enough staff, patient care suffered badly, and overworked nurses quit in record numbers. The healthcare system was on the edge of collapse. By 2018, the U.S. realized its mistake and rushed to bring Filipino nurses back. They reopened work visas, knowing that Filipino expertise and dedication were simply irreplaceable. Today, Filipino nurses remain the lifeblood of American healthcare, proving once again that the U.S. cannot function without them. From healthcare to hospitality, manufacturing to domestic work, countries around the world have tried to cut back on Filipino workers, only to face disaster. Time and time again, Filipinos have proven they are essential to economies worldwide. So, the next time someone asks, why are Filipinos in such high demand? Now you know the answer. What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.